Hey guys, this is the Hard Time Strongman podcast, training up a better class of man. And today we are continuing our Ranger Handbook Abridged series with Chapter 3, Fire Support. So, full disclosure, we were both Bravos. We were not Charlies. So, As far as infantrymen go, I know about as much about fire support as you do. But whole point of this, the whole point of this series is to go through the entirety of the Ranger Handbook, cut down all the crap, and give you all the best actionable, memorable information that we can. So hopefully we can increase your toolbox and get you something good out of this. So
it's our job to have our eyes glaze over reading this stuff, so you don't have to.
Exactly. So start off, fire support assets can help a unit by suppressing, fixing, destroying, or neutralizing the enemy. So fire support, this can be a lot of things. This can be rockets, mortars, this involves calling for fire, but these assets are a ridiculous force multiplier in any engagement. Think back to World War I, World War II, where dudes couldn't even crawl out of their trenches, couldn't venture out of their armored positions, because that space that you see that's been shelled to hell is dead space. You do not own that. So being able to wipe someone off the face of the planet from a grid square away is a very, very scary power and a very scary reality that we currently live in. Looking at war in Ukraine, where same vein, a little bit different, but you see these drone strikes of dudes just hovering over enemy personnel and just blowing them to hell. And that
dropping grenades.
Yeah, I mean, that operator could be who knows how far away, if he has a signal booster or whatever. So I mean, the battlefield is changing, and this is only going to become more prevalent. I mean, hell, there's a dude on YouTube right now who's making RPGs, or I forget what the nomenclature is, but that rocket launcher from Commando with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh yeah,
the multi-tool one. Yeah, dude's making a prototype of that you can 3D print in your home. So
that's awesome and terrifying at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, crazy capabilities, and it's only going to become more prevalent. I mean, think of the nonsense you could do by rolling into a Lowe's or a Home Depot. I mean, the times they are changing. So this, while it may not be applicable to you either at all or all the time or even part of the time, this is information you need to know, or at least be familiar with. So let's get into it.
So there are 4 basic tasks involved in fire support. First one is you're supporting the forces that are in contact. Second is you're supporting the battle plan. The third is you're synchronizing the fire support system. And then the fourth is you're sustaining the fire support system.
So this obviously, it's designated as 4 steps, but this all rolls together. A lot of the stuff is going to be occurring simultaneously. You can't have one without the other, right? So you can't support the battle plan without supporting the Chimera's intent. You can't do that without synchronizing your support with your movement element, without thinking of supply. So
right,
all this stuff has to move together.
Yeah, you got to be able to have ammunition, powder, cheese charges, whatever you have on hand and available to you. Otherwise, your tube is useless. It doesn't matter how big it is, how big your round is. If you can't keep that thing in operation, keep those rounds going downrange, if you can't do that, you're useless.
Exactly. It's just, like anything, like any of the tools that we use, if you can't use it or you can't use it effectively, it's a hunk of plastic. It's a hunk of metal, guys. So, First step in the actual targeting phase, the actual targeting process of fire support is decide. So you are thinking of the overall focus and priorities for collecting your intelligence and planning the attack. So, where are my targets? Where are my friendlies? Where, like I said earlier, was the intent of this? of this action. This breaks into your mission analysis, current and projected battle situations, and anticipated opportunities. So if I do this, what's going to happen next? So you can anticipate further actions so that you can make everything run smoother, go faster.
It's a lot easier to have mission success if, say, you're going to employ your ground forces to drive a target into a mortar situation, or use your mortars to drive your target into friendly forces to enable a capture or kill. Like, it's a lot easier to be able to do those things if you're utilizing, your mission analysis, the current situation, because anybody who's been deployed knows how quickly the battlefield can change.
Oh yeah.
Like you said, if I do this, this is going to happen. It will evolve in seconds. Like, it could go from being, hey, we're winning this, to holy crap, where did those guys come over that ridge from?
Mm-hmm. Well, and think about Commander's intent. Think about keeping within your ROEs. I mean, this is why. So a few classes ago we talked about Warnos, Opors. This is why it's important to pay attention, stay on top of these things, know the whole picture, so that when you get your fragos, when you get these split second changes, you can adjust accordingly. Especially with
Right.
Calling for fire, especially with your fire support. That is such a huge asset that if that gets bogged down in a decision making process, or that gets bogged down in dudes just not knowing what's going on, that's a huge tool that's not at your disposal anymore. I mean, you're literally talking about shutting down an entire battle space potentially. And then you can't do that because you don't, you're not abreast of the situation. You don't know what you're supposed to be doing.
And that's actually that's what they ran into at Keating up in Nuristan, when they were about to get overrun by the Taliban. Like, that was the cop that was sitting down in a bowl between three mountains along a river.
Yeah.
And they had Taliban inside the base during that fight, like ongoing inside the base. And the first thing the Taliban did was hit that mortar pit. Like, they were putting all sorts of fire on that, and they took that out of commission. Why? Because if they didn't, I mean, that was going to be hellfire that was going to be rained down on them.
Yeah.
So shutting that down was a absolute priority.
Yeah. So I don't know the exact hill that was on, but read a biography from this dude who's on one of the hills in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
Marine that was in Vietnam, and his platoon, his company was in charge of this hill, and during one of the many attacks that they endured, they had their mortars running so hard, so long, that they burned through all the water that they could use to cool down that mortar. So they had guys pissing on the mortar tube to cool it down.
Oh yeah.
Like, this is an invaluable asset, because you're talking about, especially, like you said, getting overrun, like,
They did that in We Were Soldiers too.
yeah, We Were Soldiers. Was there did they utilize fire support assets like organically in
Yeah, organically.
or not in that, but I'm talking about in 13 hours, the dudes who were holding that
In Benghazi?
yeah, the dudes that were holding that embassy, did they have organic assets there for mortars, or were they just calling stuff
No.
in?
They had nothing. They had nothing.
I thought they had fire support at one point.
They had machine guns. They had a 240 Bravo.
Yeah.
They were having mortars dropped on them.
Yeah, but more to the point, imagine if those dudes had air assets.
Oh,
Who
right.
could just completely shut down a hemisphere. All right, you don't have to worry about your north anymore.
Dude,
like,
it'd be over.
it would would have been done. Would have been a completely different outcome. But
Yeah, if they would have had an armed predator, it would have been a completely different story.
yeah. Anyway, so moving on, second critical.
Sorry for the tangent.
So second critical function, detect. Okay, so this is where your intelligence comes in place. Your intelligence officers, they're working to detect to find these high payoff targets, these HPTs, okay, to decide the next step. So the who, the what, the when, the how of target acquisition. And these, your intelligence officers, the guys who are getting all this information for you, are working with, the analysis of your control element, the field artillery officer, targeting officer, and FSO, maybe both. When you're in the service, you have all these guys who this is their specific job. Okay, but if you aren't in the service, right, this, you need to be able to understand and translate this to the assets you have. So
You may have somebody who's wearing multiple hats.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to be able to have each individual thing. Most likely, you're probably going to have someone who's running 3 or 4 of these jobs at one time. It may be the same guy running everything.
Yeah, but I mean, you're going to need intelligence support. You're going to need someone who acts as a FSO or an FO. So knowing your location at all times, knowing the general layout, having people talking in your ear with your comms, receiving and transmitting information as it becomes available, because for a lot of the stuff, like we said with the fire support, if you're firing this off, if you're calling for fire for someone to be assisting you, they aren't going to see what they're shooting at. This is a very precise, this is a science. Being able to launch something from who knows how far away,
it's a lot of math.
past all of the terrain features that you have to worry about on the ground, and to hit exactly what you're aiming at, talking about, and then if they miss, being able to walk them in. I mean, that's using your communication skills. That's using math. You being able to read and understand a map in your location. In relation to that and your target. I mean, this is a lot, guys.
It is, and that's the reason why this is their job. Like
Right.
that's all they have to worry about is this, only this. I mean, yes, are they trained to shoot? Sure, they're 11 Charlies, most of them, or whatever in the Marine Corps. I can't remember what the hell the designation is, but
regardless of
like
your
they're
regardless of your job, with whether you're in the service, in law enforcement, and as a citizen, your primary function is to be rifleman, to be an excellent rifleman, right? You do not escape that with whatever job you have. That is your base function. So,
man, that's scary if law enforcement's using mortars.
well, we're getting there. Have you seen their up armored
Getting
vehicles
close.
and everything else?
Yep, they got tanks.
Yep, they have addresses too. Anyway, so decide,
We have armor piercing rounds.
detect. So you decide what your action is. You need to detect the target that you're going to be acting upon. But your interdiction. So your interdiction is an action to divert, disrupt, delay, intercept, board, detain, or destroy the enemy's military surface capabilities. So vessels, vehicles, aircraft, people, cargo, before they can be used on friendly forces, or otherwise interfere with your objectives. So when we were talking about war nose, outboards, fragos, when we talked about task and purpose, so Charlie Company will move to disrupt or to harass, or these are your action words. This is the purpose behind you actually calling this fire.
Yeah, we're talking limiting, disrupting, delaying, diverting, destroying, damaging. Those are exactly what we're talking about. Even with limiting, it's reducing what they can do. It's reducing the number of options that they have to achieve their goal. Disrupting it, just rendering them combat ineffective. Essentially, delaying is just exactly as it sounds. Diverting, forcing them to not take the path that they're trying to take. So you mortar the crap out of a road actively, they're not going to come down that road. Anybody who's not suicidal is not going to go down that road. Destroying, same thing. Destroy the structure, destroy
People.
the cargo, destroy the vehicles, the people, especially. Like, you destroy people, you're gonna have a bad time, and just damaging stuff in general. Buildings, assets, whatever. Damage it.
Bridges,
Can't
anything.
use it anymore.
Yeah. So,
Yep.
and that's the thing. So, with this, you need to be precise, but this is not a, fine tooth comb. This is
Mm-mm.
a freaking sledgehammer on, your map, essentially.
Yeah.
So, say that you got intelligence of an ammo depot or a motor pool or, what have you. You call for fire on that motor pool. You may not, destroy or, incapacitate every single vehicle, but you're going to limit their capability. You're disrupting their movement. You're delaying any kind of, action they were going to take. You're damaging, their, their equipment, their capabilities, and, maybe you get a few guys along the way too. But, this is a, like we said, this is a very important tool to be able to use. Especially, like you said, with infrastructure, right? So instead of having guys go out with, a demo team and, worry about taking out this bridge, if you truck the 81, Mike on there, bye. If you don't completely destroy, you're not using it anymore. At least not with your vehicles.
I don't know if the 81 would actually get that. It'd probably take quite a few rounds, but if you want to effectively render a bridge useless, hit it with a 155.
Oh, yeah. It's in the dirt.
Just take out the bridge.
But, I mean, you've seen what, those carriers do. So,
Oh,
think
yeah.
about that in the middle of, a bridge over a water crossing. And then your, normal Humvees or your, Toyota Hiluxes, they can't cross that, potentially, right? I haven't shot, more enough to tell you one way or the other, but, these are some of your capabilities.
I mean, aside from the explosiveness of it, it's the shrapnel
Mm-hmm.
that really gets people, because not only are you dropping metallic round and you're spraying metal everywhere, but you're also spraying debris.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Like, rock
Concrete.
fragmentation is still going to hurt. It
Oh,
still
kill
could
you.
kill you.
Yeah. Yeah. What's another great example is sniper. Because our doctrine was if we ever came across a sniper, that's not our problem anymore.
Yeah.
Figure out where they were, call for fire.
Yep.
Because snipers are too dangerous. So if you call for
Absolutely,
fire,
dude.
you can't worry about a sniper in the building if the building's not there anymore, right? So
That's my favorite thing. Just bring the whole building down on top of them.
just recognize
Forget
when
it was
it's
even
not
there.
worth it anymore, and
Yeah.
off you go. So this chapter in particular has a lot of tables full of information, and we'll
Yeah.
cut them out and we'll post them on our Instagram so that you guys can get in there and take this information down, or just get a visual representation of what we're talking about. But just some highlights, talking about we were talking about the ranges of these weapon systems a minute ago, but in more precise terms, right? So 60 millimeter mortar, your max range for high explosive is 3,500 meters.
That's a
You're talking about three
freaking
clicks
long
away.
way.
3 clicks away.
3.5, bro.
Like,
That's insane.
yeah, for the smallest offering, 60 millimeter mortar, equipment that can be carried by 2 dudes.
One dude.
Yeah, well, if you hate them. But think about that. So that's what's always amazed me with firearms, right? That was part of the draw for me. After getting in the military, getting all the training, getting time behind the rifle and everything. Just the thought that I could touch a dude from 300 meters away with irons.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's like, hey, how you doing? Here's a vibe check. Bing. And that's with a 5.56. Let's not talk about like our 110. What is it? The 110s, the DMR.
Yeah. M110. Yep.
Yeah. Or you know, anything, like the
Yes, 2010.
240, like, any of that, like, you're talking about just like me to you, like, hundreds of meters away, and I can put you in the dirt. But think about it,
Yeah.
3,500 meters for a mortar. Like, that's scary stuff, man. So 81 millimeter for max range for high explosive HE, 5,600 meters. 120s, 7,200 meters.
Stupid.
7 clicks away, 7 grid squares away, right? 105s, 11,500 meters with charge 7.
Charge 7.
14,000
I
with
don't know
charge
what the
8.
charges are.
I have no idea what the charges are. I assume the repellent,
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah.
but I don't know if those are interchangeable or if that's just whatever type of round that you're issued. But so the 155s up to 22,000 or up to 24,500.
Oh, with the Excalibur. Oh my God. That is a crazy round, dude. Have you heard about that
I've
thing?
not.
If this is the one I'm thinking of, you can essentially, so say you're shooting at a target at your 12 o'clock,
Okay.
you can take the weapon system and turn it to like, I can't even remember how far they shot it off course. So say about your 10 o'clock, they fired this thing and it has an in-round guidance
No
system
freaking way.
and it turned it back on target and landed it within like 10
That's
meters.
just sick.
GPS guided, dude. It's
Goodness.
stupid. Absolutely stupid.
Well, and yeah. And then that goes into, so like when I was on my gun team, right? So that goes into your machine gun math, is what we called it, right? So
Yep.
we're going to be on target. We're going to be suppressing for this amount of time at this rate of fire, maybe this rate of fire. I need to be able to sustain myself for at least that long, and then my egress. And then I'm carrying
Yeah.
that. So you need to do that math beforehand. And you need to have a good way to resupply. Because what if something goes wrong, which it always does.
Always does.
The plan never survives first contact ever.
Mm-hmm.
Your plan will always change. So working in for those contingencies. But I was just remembering when we were taking mortars and rockets all the freaking time,
Yeah.
and just like besides like what those rounds can do, like it is so demoralizing. It can be so demoralizing for dudes.
Yeah.
Like I was just remembering, so like it got to the point to where we were getting hit so often, like because I knew I'd have to get it all up in my kit and go down and get accountability and everything. And I knew that none of our structures could protect me from rockets, which we were getting hit with, right? None of them were ready for
Mm-hmm.
rockets. So I was taking a shower one day and I hear I hear the siren, incoming, incoming, incoming. And I just turn my music up. So be it.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
If it happens, it happens.
If it's your time, it's your time.
Yeah, it's like it's not like I'm gonna freaking dodge it, But like and then just like the fear though when you're not in that headspace. Like we were getting ready for a mission, we were loading up all our vehicles and everything, and our buddy Z was like, I was in the vehicle and he was like out when we heard it, and we both froze. And I'm like, get in the freaking truck. It's like,
Yeah.
and then as soon as you're going, boom, and it's like, and you never know. You never know where it's going to hit. You never know who shot. You never know where they were. I mean, and I know that we had, the technology to be able to know exactly, like we were watching half the freaking time for that stupid blimp. But, if you're not in that room, you're just like, who knows, man?
I'll be honest. That blimp is not catching everything. It relies on the CRAM technology. Like once the alarm goes off, the coordinates go to the PTIDs and it immediately swings the camera to it.
Yeah.
And then there's like, I think 2 cameras on it. So one goes to the point of origin, one goes to the point of impact.
Right.
So you can see battle damage assessment and all that shit. But
All at the same time. Yeah.
dude, yeah. You were talking like you never know. Like there was that one time I'd gone up to my room to get the charger for my phone,
Yeah.
and I was coming back down, and I heard the whoosh in the distance. I was like, that's weird. Like that was weird. I don't hear that
Mm,
every day. And then I just kind of looked up and oh, sure as hell, I see the outline of the rocket still. It's like, oh crap. 6 feet south. If it landed 6 feet south, I would not be here.
you'd be gone.
Like it would have hit the freaking fuel point and I would be
You'd
gone.
be an
God, I would be
ember.
gone.
Yeah, you'd be an
Yeah.
ember.
I'd I'd be ashes
The
in
closest,
Afghanistan.
the closest I ever got to more, it didn't explode anywhere near me because it hit base, but it was at like 9 o'clock or something, like late at night, like later than they'd
Hmm.
ever hit us before. And
Yeah.
I was in my guard shack because I was at the sister base, right, or our
Hmm.
little SF base, and I hear the
Hmm.
like over my head. I was like, "Oh, that was the fin!" Like that. Oh, that was
Yeah, I think
closer than I've ever been before. And then a couple seconds
I think
later,
that was the same one.
golly, and then a couple seconds later, boom! I was like, "Oh, holy crap!" Like
Yeah.
that was close. And
I
our
think we figured out that was the same one.
my SOG was just like, "Hey, dude, you good?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm alright." He's like, "All right, man. Well, put your helmet on, okay?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah, all right." Like,
Jesus.
God, crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff. Yeah, but that Excalibur round.
Yeah.
So max rate of fire, 1 every 2 minutes. And 2 minutes goes by so freaking quickly when you're getting more shot at you. Like,
Yeah, but I mean, that's out of the M777 though.
yeah,
That's a howitzer. Like that's a
that's a
big,
big
big,
one.
big gun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'll shake your house.
Yeah, I mean, if it's coming out of the 109, then it's every 3 minutes. So it's not nearly as bad,
But
but it's bad.
a building disappeared every time.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. Like, especially like if you're not sitting in a few feet of concrete all around, like you're talking about every two
You're going to
minutes.
feel it.
You're talking about every 2 minutes a building disappears. Like,
Hmm.
imagine being a fighter. You look over at your buddy, and then he's just gone. Like, nothing about it. And then you're sitting there, and then 2 minutes later, the other building disappears. Like, like you're talking about
And
literally
then,
just erasing, like, erasing these features.
yeah. Yeah. And
Crazy.
it's hilarious.
It's hilarious, he says. So,
Hilariously terrifying.
danger, I mean, laugh or cry, your choice. Danger close. Okay. Danger close. When a target is within 600 meters of any friendly
It's
troops
crazy.
for mortars or field artillery, announce danger close in the method of engagement portion of your call for fire on your call for fire card. So, 600 meters is considered danger close.
That's insane. That's 6 football fields,
Yep.
right?
Yep. 100 meters. I mean, about, meter to a yard is pretty close.
Yeah. Yeah. Almost exactly the same. Yeah, it's off by give or take what, like 10 meters at most.
I don't know. Something like that.
Anyway,
Anyway, so another distance is your risk estimate distance. So red. And this applies to combat only.
and it just means the percentage of risk that is involved with an impact of a round.
Right. So the metric that is listed here is 0.1% point of impact or higher. So war's a numbers game. It's
Yeah.
in economy.
And it and really what that's talking about is like the effects of friendly fires without suffering appreciable casualties, which I can appreciate that I'm not going to become a casualty by a mortar.
Right.
I would prefer the 0% chance point of impact.
Right. So red formulas. So this is only in combat to determine acceptable risk levels and to identify the risk for your forces. Right.
Mhm.
During training, you're advised to use minimum safe distances so as to negate that. And you don't want dudes dying off in training. But To your point, right? This is acceptable risk because tell you what, the military industrial complex, we could just JDAM everything all the time for a
Yeah.
long, long time
Yeah.
without caring, if there were civilians or friendlies or whatever. And yeah, you'd win the war, but at what cost? You know. So that's where that comes into play. Another tangent. Uh, he was telling me when he was in, I think it was Afghanistan or Iraq the first time, when he was still in the Marines,
Yeah.
and he got to call for fire one time, and
It's fun.
yeah, but he was in, so they were at a fob, and then he had desert nonsense, one road, and then another
Hmm.
fob, and they had this truck that was going to one of the fobs.
No.
Yes, and they were calling for fire, and I'm probably not telling the story right, but like the bird was talking to him, right, and he said, "Hey, you know, I read you and everything, but I have a JDAM, and I'm not going home with it." And they're
Yes.
like, "But it's one truck," and he's like, "I'm not going back with it." And
Yes.
and they're like, "Oh, okay." And so he called it. He just sees this thing
God.
fall, and then just the truck disappear,
Yeah.
light, and then nothing. And yeah, that just stuck with me. I was like,
I wonder what size JDM that was. What if it was a 500 pounder?
I don't know, but I'm just like, dude, that is not. It was one truck. You didn't have to do that. But just
Dude,
the
those things come through the freaking cloud cover sounding like a freight train.
because it is a freight train.
Yeah.
Like those things are
Well, the 1,000
monstrous.
pounders, dude.
Those things are
Like, good
monstrous,
lord.
man.
This week's episode is brought to you by FieldSeats.com. FieldSeats.com is an e-commerce, federally licensed firearms dealer. They provide virtual reviews on brand new firearms, optics, and gear, where at the end of the review, they give away the item being reviewed to an attendee.
Currently, they've got reviews ranging from the Shadow Systems MR920 for $35, the Springfield M1A for $65, or Trichicon ACOG with RMR for $60. Each review has limited seating, so your chances of winning the giveaway are that much higher.
Check out FieldSeats.com to purchase your reviews and enter to win the item being reviewed, and use code STRONGMEN to get 10% off your order.
Be sure to check out their Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at field_seats for updates on products and other tips and info.
Use code STRONGMEN to receive 10% off your entire purchase at FieldSeats.com. Terms and conditions apply.
Thanks for listening, guys. Now back to the episode. Stay in the fight.
So also to further expound on what we're talking about with percentage of risk, we're talking with the 0.1%, we're talking, as far as the Ranger Handbook is concerned, this is talking about the 5-minute assault criterion. And what we're talking about there is a prone ranger in winter clothing and helmet. If he is physically unable to function in an assault within a 5-minute period after an attack, he's considered a casualty. And a point of impact value of less than 0.1% can be interpreted as being less than or equal to 1 chance in 1,000 that you get hit and become a casualty, meaning that you are physically incapacitated within a 5-minute period after an attack.
Right.
So
Unable
like
to continue the
a
mission.
mortar drops. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if mortar drops, 5 minutes later you can't move, you're a casualty.
Right. So plays into.
Don't use that as, yeah. Don't be.
I was gonna say it just plays into the numbers game. Right.
Right.
If you
Exactly.
have a 1 in
And of course,
1,000
red
chance
is,
of incapacitating half your dudes, then it's not a good plan.
yeah. And of course, they use the red system, because units have to assume some sort of risk, especially when it comes to mortars dropping in the area. Like there is risk.
Yeah.
Whether you're sending it or someone else is sending it in, there is risk.
Yeah. I mean, the fact of the matter is there are going to be casualties.
Right. And it's up to the CO to determine how close he's going to allow rounds to fall from
Hmm.
his mortar system or fire system to friendly forces.
Right. In the service, the commander is also relying heavily on his FSO for experience.
Oh yeah,
Outside the service, whoever has the most experience with these weapon systems, who has seen these at work and has experience there, you're relying on these guys for that extra context, that extra information. Can I
exactly.
safely do this and still complete the mission? You need to rely on the people with the most expertise here.
Yeah, it's all about what I can get away with, as we've learned in the army.
Right.
What can I get away with? That could be good. That could be bad.
Yeah. So moving on. So your fire support plan. So to ensure this is complete, uh, you can use the acronym TTLODAC. So your target, your trigger, your location, observer, delivery system, attack guidance, and communications network. So
Checklist.
checklist. Yeah. So your trigger, so when to fire the target. Location, your minimum. So this is a minimum of a 6-digit grid. Okay. Your observer, primary and alternate. So multiple eyes on, always better. Delivery system, this is this a mortar and artillery? Is this coming from the air? Attack guidance, so ammo, special instructions, communications net, so your TAC, your CLF, how are you, what is the network that you're communicating under? Who's talking to who's giving guidance, etc. at all, ad
Nine
nauseum.
times out of ten, that's coming across. If it's ground support fire, it's coming across the fire's net. If it's delivered from air, they'll be on a certain frequency,
Right.
or the JTAC will be on a certain frequency,
Right.
communicating with the birds. The FO almost never will talk to birds in the air because you have to be certified to drop a bomb.
Yeah, not well, and it's not his job.
Yeah, exactly.
So moving on to call for fire. So these are your definite steps taken when calling for fire. So your fire support mission. All right. So moving on to call for fire. So call for fire. These are your definite steps taken when calling in your fire support mission. Okay. So minimum to make this happen are 5 steps. So your observer's identification, your call signs. Okay. Your warning order, your method of target location. So whether you're applying this using your grid, whether you're shifting from a known point or from an earlier mission, your target or the location of your target. So your 6-digit grid. If you can do more, do more. Always better be more precise, obviously.
Yep.
So shifting from a known point. So mils, degrees, cardinal direction, right, left, whatever you're able to do and able to communicate clearly to where everybody's on the same page and actually able to fulfill that request, right? And then the description of your target, so type, activity, number, uh, what kind of protection they have, size and shape, anything to help distinguish, so everybody has the best information and is able to work off that.
Getting into more details, you could send your method of engagement, whether you're doing with mortars, artillery, hell, naval guns.
Goodness.
I don't remember the last time that happened. That was probably what, Vietnam, the last time we used naval guns to bombard a freaking target.
Dude, I don't know. Those things are stupid. I mean, you could they
Yeah,
can send that crap through a window from
yeah. They're essentially sending out a freaking Volkswagen bus
yeah.
out of a freaking 50 caliber, no, 45 caliber naval gun. Stupid.
Well, imagine how scary that is too, right? So you're not even anywhere near the coast, and you're like, all right, this is, and then just your entire apartment complex explodes, just into nothing. Like,
Yeah, because
and
what
if you
the
could have known, you would know that you just got just absolutely wrecked by just a destroyer a couple miles off the coast. Like,
well, hell, it was the battleship, what, Iowa, that could send around like miles past the horizon. So they had to have spotter planes.
Terrifying.
Just stupid. And it's awesome.
Yay.
Yay. Of course, you got to have a method of fire control.
Right.
So,
Correcting errors.
not nine. Yeah. I feel like most of the time it's going to be like at my command.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, also context too, right? Who are we teaching this
Right.
to? It's going to be
Yeah.
at your command more often than not.
I would hope so. Like, yeah, you need control. Period. If you're sending rounds, you need control. Unless it's just like, yeah, rounds on target, fire for effect.
Repeat, 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 repeat. Anyway, so you want to talk about close air support?
God, the most terrifying thing of all time. Bird.
Brr. What the hell's brr?
The hills are alive with the sound of bird. So that brings us to close air support. There are two types of this. Close air support, or CAS as it's known. There is planned and immediate. Planned requests are ones that you put in ahead of time. It's passed up the chain, and they'll either say yes or no. Immediate requests can be initiated at any level, because immediate requests are usually what happens during a troops in contact incident or a tick,
Help!
and you need air support
Yesterday.
right now. In fact, you needed it, yesterday. So, the format for requesting immediate CAS: observer identification, give a warning order. So you're requesting close air. Describe your target. At a minimum, this has to include type and number of targets, activity or movement, and point or area targets. You must send your target location in a grid form, and that should include your elevation. You need to give your desired time on target, your desired effects on target, your final control, and give any reports. So your friendly locations, your wind direction and hazards, threats such as air defense, artillery, or small arms. And that is a 9-line, up to and including your egress, to avoid, say, friendly fire. So one of the good things the Army had was, how do I go with this? So one of the best things that the Army had was the Apaches. Like, we had Apaches on call 25/8, 367. So Army attack aviation is defined as a hasty or deliberate attack in support of units engaged in close combat. During an attack, armed helicopters engage enemy units with direct fire that impacts nearby friendly forces. These would be the Apaches, and these things are awesome. They are flying tanks.
They're death. Flying
Yeah.
death. So this just
So
makes me think
during
of
the planning,
Red Hawk Down with the little birds.
Red Hawk Down.
I said Black Hawk Down.
Did you?
Yeah.
It sounded like it said Red Hawk on my
No, I was just saying, like, it makes me think of Black Hawk Down with the little birds. Oh,
God. Yeah, all night long.
God, man. But yeah, the Apaches.
Just thinking they would have had the Apaches back then.
Goodness.
If they'd had Apaches for that, it would have been a different story.
Oh yeah. Well, like you said, it's a flying tank. Like
Yeah.
they're ridiculous.
And it's great. Freaking chain gun is just stupid. So during the planning process for Army attack aviation, uh, this is usually comes down to the responsibility of the team, platoon, or company level leadership to ensure that enough time is allowed to conduct rehearsals between the ground unit and the aviation unit, so that there's enough situational awareness to plan, so that there's enough situational awareness of the plan, the routes, the capabilities, and limitations of what the units can provide and support.
Everybody needs to know what everybody else can do.
Exactly. Or can't do.
Right. You know, you need to know. So birds need to know, like, you know, who you are, how many you are, how fast you can move, because they're not in your boots on the ground. You know, we all look like ants down there to them.
Right.
So, you know, especially with your methods of marking, and when you're calling in your updates, your reports, you need to be where you're saying you are, because these guys are, just looking from on high. If you're not where you're supposed to be, then bombs don't care.
It's true. One good way of negating that is by having your IR strobes going off
Mm-hmm.
or BS-17 panels. I mean, that didn't save Pat Tillman, but
Yeah.
unfortunate. But friendly fire does happen. But those are methods of negating the friendly fire. Um, and dear God, if you're moving, you might want to report that.
Yes.
Direction and speed and method of marking of you and how far the enemy is from you and what you're marking them with. Say an infrared pointer, a tracer, smoke, whatever you got, whatever you're throwing at them, send it up so they know where to drop those bombs. Hopefully not on you.
So this was a pretty short chapter, guys. This was very image, very table, like information table heavy, but it's a lot of information. It's a lot to know. That's why you have your experts in this field. And this may not be your context, now or ever. You may only get a little taste of this, but it is, like we've been saying this episode, times have changed. You can't, get by. You can't, be serious about warfighting or, preparing for a fight without considering air assets, whether you have them or not. You can't be serious about this without considering indirect fires, whether you have them available to you right now or not, because
Yeah.
they will, they are going to be in your context on one way or the other. So understanding these capabilities, understanding the basics of what is needed to have these come to your aid, what a potential enemy will need in order to bring this to bear against you, so you can negate that. This is really important stuff.
Always remember that danger close is 600 meters. That can work for you or against you. It's your call on how you utilize that.
See if your enemy has balls or not.
Yeah. Or if they're suicidal.
You can call, but
Shit.
you're gonna have to call it on yourself, buddy. This was a continuation of our Ranger Handbook Abridged series on Chapter 3, Fire Support. Reach out to us. Talk to us in the comments. Tell us what you liked about this episode, what you want to know more, and how you may or may not use this in the future. What are you doing to get better at fire support? And what can we do better? Let us know. Let us know what you like. Share with your buddies. And let's build out this community. Let's build out. Let's train up this bear class of man. This doesn't always... Sorry, I was just going to say, this doesn't always have to be in your context. This is such a wide field. Warfighting, right? Community building, medical. This is so wide. We can't know it all. No one can. But it is your responsibility, I believe, to learn as much as you can. Or at least be open to learning as quickly and as much as you can.
Join us on Discord. We've been having a lot of fun on there.
We have.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. This has been the Hard Times Strongmen Podcast. Stay safe. Stay in the fight.
Stay in the fight.